Welcome to Whatcha Makin, a podcast about sharing ideas, discussing the business of making, and connecting with the maker community. Your hosts are Alex Adams, an engineer turned furniture maker of Type A Furniture, and an alien pretending to be a DIY craftsman, Alex Duffey of Duffey Woodcraft. This is Whatcha Makin.
Hello, makers, and welcome to Whatcha Makin, a podcast where we talk all about our current projects, spotlight makers throughout the community, and remind you that early glues were made from animal bones, bird poop, and even fish guts. So remember how lucky you are today when you grab a bottle of Type Bond during Cutting Board Awareness Month in November. Hi, I'm Alex, and today's main discussion is all about adhesives in your shop. But you can find me on Instagram and on YouTube at Duffey Woodcraft.
And I am Alex. You can find me at Type A Furniture on Instagram. And I'm here to remind you that if you did not see the lemon comet, you'll have to wait another about 1,200 years to see it again. So make sure and put a timer in your phone.
Did you say lemon? Is it lemon?
Maybe it's pronounced different. I think it's L-O-M-M-O-N. Maybe it's lemon.
Lemon.
Maybe it's French. I don't know. I'm
Is
bad
that
at
lemon
pronouncing
comet?
things.
I wonder if it
24 hours of Le Mans.
does it smell good as it passes by? So lemon scented.
I did not use the professor's smell vision or
Smell-o-vision.
Yes, I
Smelloscope?
think that's what he called it. Smelloscope. That's what he called it.
Yep. Well, darn it.
But if you don't want to wait 1,200 years for something exciting, you could become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/whatchamakinshow and signing up for one of the wonderful tiers that we offer.
Yes. And if you're a patron, remember every quarter you get to be part of our quarterly patron meetup, which actually has just taken place when this airs. So I'm sure it was a great time. We haven't been there yet, but we will be. It's going to be exciting.
Should have been there for all the memes. They were great ones.
Yeah, there were some pretty good ones. But make sure you sign up so you can be part of the next one.
Exactly. It's like a Christmas present to yourself. Your future self.
What you doing?
All right, so why don't we get started with what we're making? This week, so it's, again, I'm in production, so it's been a crazy week. And it's funny, I took 3 days off because I had like a stomach flu at the end of last week, and it was not fun. So I had 3 days of just me needing to be out of the shop and being thing. But with that, I still cut 100 little Sasquatch 6-foot figurines, a whole bunch of travel cribbage boards.
6 foot?
6 inch. 6 inch
figurines.
Okay. Figurines, yeah.
You versus the Sasquatch he tells you not to worry about.
Yeah. 6 inch little 6 foot or 6 inch little Bigfoot is what I'm trying to say. Figurines. I sell those for $10 a piece, and they're just the outline and made of walnut, so they look, like a dark brown walnut Sasquatch, and they sell all year round here, which is pretty cool. Not just at my Sasquatch market, but and Christmas is a big one that they sell at for stocking stuffer, fun little novelty stocking stuffer.
Nice.
But yeah, and then I'm cutting out 24 what I call my travel cribbage boards, which are round half games. And I'll probably cut out about 20 full size cribbage boards, which I've started doing the wood epoxy blanks for, because I make my full size boards. I make basically epoxy river table cribbage boards. So I use all my offcuts that I make throughout the year that are live edge, and then I have a couple of forms that I put them in and then make the little river table. And they look really nice.
How many species of wood do you use for that usually?
This year I have a lot of oak because I did a lot of oak stuff this year. A lot of walnut, which is pretty regular for me, and then some maple offcuts. Those are usually what I get in slabs that have live edge. So usually if I'm getting cherry or anything else, I'm getting that in lumber form, so I don't have live edge for that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I've started making those blanks. I've got the first 5 curing tonight. I poured tonight, which actually I'll talk about in Whatcha Breakin', because I made some mistakes. It was an afternoon. Mistakes were made, yeah. And then I just wrapped up the finished curing the last couple of days on my. I made like 150 herb strippers, and then I think 60 toaster tongs. Yes, herb strippers have you put them next to the pole, see what kind of herbs you get. I don't know.
Boots and
So yeah,
cats,
so that's
boots and cats.
so. Besides being out of the shop for 3 days, it's just been a crazy whirlwind of making still. So though I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, which also terrifies me because I've only got 2.5 weeks left before my first market, and that scares me. So
how many markets do you do between then and Christmas?
7.
7 markets total. How much are those?
There's
how spread out are those?
There's one every weekend, and then there's a couple that are in midweek.
Okay.
So,
now on those,
I don't. The midweek ones I might not do because I have, I've been looking at them and they're not usually great, and so I might just pass on those and just do my 5 that are during the end of the weekends. One of
are
which
those
is
ones very far away?
No, they're all local.
The midweek
they're all
ones?
here in. No, yeah, they're all local.
Okay.
I don't really travel for the only market I travel for is the UFO Fest one. Otherwise, all my markets at this point are all local because we have so many good ones that happen. And I say local is that I don't go more than 45 minutes away.
Yeah, that's a good distance to stay in between because any more than that, and it's like half of the day is just driving.
Exactly. And then you also, like, depending on how late it is, or if it's a 2-day event, do you worry about, driving home again? Do you get a hotel? Is that worth the cost? All that. So the only one that I finally got confirmed was the last one I was waiting on was the casino market, which I knew I was in. I was waiting on confirmation that I got a double booth again. Because there's so many people that want to get in there. They are limiting it, but I've gone to every single event this year that they've done as a regular vendor that she's like, yeah, you're one of our regulars. We'll make sure that you get your space. And so I've got my double wide, which is good, which also means now I will be hiring my first employee for a market. Because I did, Victoria and I did it last year by ourselves. And it was a nightmare. We lost sales because there were times where there was just too many people waiting to either get checked out or get bagged up and stuff like that because there was so much going on.
Yeah, it's kind of like the fast food line effect where people skip to a different place. Now, is Victoria still going with you to that one?
Yes, she's going to go again.
Okay, so it's going to be you, her, and then an additional person.
Another guy that we're going to hire that actually... He's our favorite bartender, and unfortunately, the bar just closed that he's part of, and so he's he's unfortunately out of job at the moment. So we're like, hey, we're gonna hire you for a weekend. So
I'm sure he is happy for that.
Yeah, I'm sure. And if he gets a job in between now and then, I'll figure something else out. But yeah, he's a good guy, so I'm looking forward to at least being able to help him out. But also, it'll be great to help me out, even. And I told him, like, you don't even have to do anything, like, know any of the products. It's just having that person to be able, once I check them out, that you bag it up. So that, they...
I was going to ask if you had price tags on everything, if you could ring people up easily.
Yeah, everything I do. Everything is priced up, but I'm a little control freak when it comes to that. Like, I want to be the one in charge of the credit card machine and the funds and everything. So
does that tie into how you do inventory as well?
Yeah, it is.
I would also be a control freak about that too if I was keeping tabs on all of the inventory, because that would make a big confusion if something went wrong there.
Yeah, though Victoria does. So Victoria will do cash sales. So if she does, but she has a piece of paper that she writes everything on as it sells, so that she just has a fanny pack with some extra cash. So if people have cash and just want to grab a quick thing and walk away, she'll take care of that. But any of the credit cards and Venmo and all that comes to me because it takes a little bit more time, and then it's digitally inventoried.
I was going to ask real quick on those herb strippers that you made. So you have, I think you put in 5 different size holes into that one. What was the smallest and what was the largest that you did on those?
There are 7 different holes, and I'm showing a picture.
I thought it was 5 for some reason, and it was an odd number.
It is. The smallest hole is an 1/8 of an inch, and then the biggest hole is what's the?
Is it like a half? 3/8?
No, it's the whatever the next step is after a half.
5/8?
Not a quarter. 5/8. Thank you. 5/8. Yeah.
Platform 9 3/4.
Yes. Yeah. So it goes from an 1/8 to 5/8.
And those have enough space on the sides that you can kind of like hold it on one side as you're pulling through whichever herb that you're trying to
it's
work.
It's the same size as my bottle openers I do, so that it's still like I've found that shape is really good for basically giving your wrist the torque it needs. So so I basically used the same shape I did with my bottle openers, but then did the holes for the herb strippers, which gives you gripping on strippers, right? But it gives you grip on either side that you can grab and then pull your herb through. I've never used one.
I have used. We have like a little plastic one that I've used maybe a couple times, and it didn't work super well. But I'm wondering if it was because we didn't have the proper sizing for the type of herb that we were using, because I was having a tough time pulling. I think it was like rosemary or something that we were doing, and I think it also depends on the shape of that, if it's just like one singular stalk or if it has a couple of like small branches on the side, because that makes it different. So I may not have prepared it properly to like go through.
Herb strippers are are like a TikTok product in my mind. Like they sound really great, but in functionality they suck.
Yeah.
At least that's how I believe it. Now I'm still making them because I know they sell, so I'm going to sell them. But do I actually like that product?
It worked well when I was pulling it through, but it got like clumped together, so I couldn't pull the rest of the stem through, is the issue that I had. So I think, there must be a learning curve for it.
Maybe, yeah. So anyways, that's what I've been making. What about you?
So I made another wand for my son.
2.0.
Yes. 2.0 of the same design as the first one. So what he wanted was a few tweaks to the original one that I had made. And I went and I sharpened my turning tools. Sorry, TJ, I used a grinding wheel for that.
Oh no.
Well, on the flat skew chisel, that one I actually used the diamond stones that I have in order to sharpen it properly. But like the gouge, I didn't have anything to do that. So eventually I will get some type of jig to properly sharpen that stuff, because that probably makes life a whole lot easier. I just am not set up for that stuff yet. Anyway.
I imagine somewhere this is what just happened. Oh, that is not what I thought it was.
What just happened?
What did you say?
That's also not what I thought. I apologize. I thought I had
soundboard?
I thought I had saved the soundboard of that meme that goes, "What?" And so I thought somewhere TJ just went, "What?"
He's turning over in his shop, not in his grave, because he's not dead.
Right. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so anyway, so I did that, and I tried, because he wanted the handle to be similar size, but he wanted some of the, I don't know what to call them, like the little, like, knob where the diameter is a little bit wider, so like the top and the bottom of the handle. So like you've got what is it called, like the keel or something, that's like the bottom portion, and then the top that's above your hand to like keep it from going past the handle. I'm trying not to do motions that will get me in trouble.
I didn't say anything.
Anyway, when I tried to put in those features, I had more detail to them in the original version that I made, where it's just kind of just the rounded over shape, where it's just kind of like a half circle, and then on the sides it went down essentially vertical, Whereas in this one, when I was doing it, it had more of a like sweeping motion to it, so it was a little bit smoother. And apparently my son did not like that, and he was not afraid to tell me that he did not want it to look like that.
I love that.
Yeah, tough
That
customer.
kid's the greatest.
Yeah. Yeah, he's basically like, you have to remake this, Dad. So...
Ooh.
Well, and also, I did make the handle a little bit beefier, because sometimes when you have a thicker handle, it's more comfortable. Just because if you have a handle for something that is smaller, you're using more grip strength to hold on to it. So there's an optimal size. I'm
dying here. I'm dying.
I just keep on digging myself into a hole further and further with this.
Further. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, this thicker brown wand. So anyway, I did some things that made it quicker to make, but obviously they were not how my son wanted them to have as like the end result. So and some of that was just getting accustomed to what do I have for some of the turning tools, which ones are easier to sharpen, can I do it with just these ones that are easier for me to sharpen. So I need to go back and do some of that. And some of it's just kind of learning the finesse of some of those tools, because especially when you kind of get in those inside corners when you're turning, one of the issues that I ran into that I actually did talk to TJ about is that sometimes when you go into that inside corner and it kind of like catches and you kind of like your turning tool kind of pops back a little bit, it has not made a full revolution, and so not all of the material has been removed. So you have a bit of material that is on one side and not the other, and so you have too much weight on one side and it becomes imbalanced. So then you get more vibration that happens as a result. And so making sure that you have even weight distribution, as well as you're not going the aspect ratio of the width to length is not too much so that it's basically just snapping. Because sometimes you will add in some of those, you see them sometimes where they use like skateboard wheels to support a cut. Like if it's like a table leg or something like that, that's a little bit more thin, they'll throw that in there to support that cut so that it has a little more stability while they're finishing turning it. So anyway, I learned some things, and so we'll incorporate into that next one. And that video that I posted, I don't know if that's what Pat Lap saw when he followed me, but I did get followed by Pat Lap, so I feel a little bit special. So, and not too bad for first reel.
I found what?
So anyway,
that's awesome though. That's great, and the fact that Pat followed you is great. Now, did you meet him your first year at Maker Camp?
I did not actually talk to him. Like I actually went up and watched TJ do some turning. That was the first time that I had run into TJ. So I had not, because Pat gets swamped with people all the time, and so I didn't see him much, or he was talking to someone, so I didn't feel the need to like butt in.
Well, that makes it more special than that he followed you from that versus say going, oh, I know him from this time we met then. It's like, no, he followed you because he saw this thing that you made. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was the thing that I posted or what it was, because I occasionally comment on his posts, because I like interacting with people's posts, because I like helping people boost engagement, especially when they make good content. So maybe that's because like I added a story and just kind of like put that in there, like either Pat Lap saw my wand and thought it was great, or probably thought that it was, he was going to be, quote unquote, making fun. Little play on words there. But and then he was like, oh yeah, I just try to follow makers in the community. So yeah, you make good stuff and interact with the post. You can be followed by famous people too and get all of the illustrious benefits, such as talking about it on a podcast. Um, anyway, there's I'll get off my soapbox. And speaking of reels, I just had my best performing Instagram reel from a slab flattening, or not slab flattening, my router sled flattening video that I had posted. That's just a short little time lapse of me flattening the base of my router sled. And there were some things that I did in there that I knew would like drive a little bit of like questions and engagement in there. But it definitely got a lot more than the typical reel that I post. So I was pretty happy with that, outperforming a lot of my other reels. And I did get quite a few followers off of that one as well. So that was very nice. And it just kind of goes to show that you don't know what exactly is going to perform well and what won't. So like, this was just like a basic time lapse that I set up from maybe 2 camera angles, and it performed pretty darn well. So, you know, sometimes the simple stuff works. Let's see. And then the next thing that I had that I was working on was a replacement for a table leg. So it's a I don't know if it's necessarily an antique table, but it's an older table that someone wanted me to make a replacement leg for because the original one had fallen off and gotten lost or something like that. So I took the one of the original table leg profiles and I sketched around that profile because it's kind of this kind of curved, not quite C shape. It's kind of like gosh, I'm blanking on my terminology. Kind of a cove shape if you're looking at it from the side. So kind of like think of like, instead of a half pipe for skateboarding, like a quarter pipe from the side, where it's that just kind of like quarter circle shape.
So a J?
What?
So a J?
More like a lowercase, like the bottom half. No, it doesn't like swoop back up. It just goes down. So maybe like a ski jump.
Okay.
Okay. So anyway, what I did, I checked, and it was not a like simple like circular pattern or anything like that. It was a more organic shape. So if it was, what I would have done is I would have lasered out a template to use based on basic geometry, and then use that for a flush trim router bit. But instead, what I ended up doing was basically just putting one of those legs, because one of the other legs had actually like come loose, but I still had it. So I used that to trace on a piece of cherry, which is what I'm using for it, the profile. And I cut that with a bandsaw, and then I used the oscillating spindle sander to basically sneak up to that profile and then take it back to the piece and see how close it was. And I got pretty darn good on there. So I think I've got the shape that I'm happy with. So the original piece was a couple of pieces glued together. So I have 2 pieces. So one of them I actually did do that sanding to. The other one I left rough. I have glued them together. Once that glue dries, I will take the flush trim router bit and flush the second piece to the other one that was already glued on there, so I don't have to do it twice. So hopefully that will get everything good to go. And then I did also do some finish samples to match the color. Unfortunately, I couldn't use the types of finishes that I normally like to, that are way easier to apply. I had to use it's just like a regular like colored like stain poly mixture. So I'm not like super excited for that, because since it's got like kind of a curve and stuff, it's tough to keep. Hi, Charlie Chaplin. Is that who you're going for?
No, I'm just doing things.
Doing things and stuff. Trying to break me. So anyway, I don't like, because especially this has like a bead profile on the edges of it, that I ordered a router bit to do that. And hopefully I get the shape that I want on that one. But that's also going to make it trickier for finish because you have that little channel in there that finish can accumulate in, so that can be a little bit of a pain in the butt. So that's also why I don't like that type of finish, is because it makes those types of projects difficult to apply finish, whereas the ones that I can just wipe away, it's easier to get the excess off so that you get a nice consistent finish layer. So yeah, that is what I have been working on lately.
Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it!
All right, you
So
start.
what'd you break?
No,
Oh,
you
me start? Okay.
Yeah, you start.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm doing these epoxy blanks, and so today, it's been a while since I've done deep pour epoxy, and oh my god, I get easily distracted, and that's gonna be rough. For those who are listening, Alex just stuck a carrot up his nose, a fluffy carrot. Anywho, so I haven't done deep pour epoxy in a while. I've been doing a lot of table epoxy, and so I forgot that my deep pour is 2-to-1 and not 1-to-1.
Ooh.
So I mixed up everything 1-to-1 and poured it all and put it away. And as I was putting the bottles away, I went, man, why do I have such a small hard bottle or hardener bottle versus, oh no. And
Had you already poured it at this point?
Oh yeah, it was all poured in the molds and everything. And so then I just got a big bowl and poured the molds into the bowl. And then
it's like making a suicide at the fast food place where you put all the pop in together.
Yep. And then I took a bucket and poured some of that mix into it. And then I did math of going, okay, if I add a quarter more of this weight, that'd be another another half of this weight. That'll be another 1 part to this piece. And so I did that, and I think I saved it. We're gonna
it's
find
yet
out.
to be determined.
Well, we'll find out tomorrow because I poured it today. So, yeah, we'll find out tomorrow if it starts hardening or if it is still goo.
So are those all the same color that you did?
They were all the same color. So at least it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't. Turned out to be poop brown or something. It was all
Or it looked like a
aqua
unicorn
blue.
fart.
Yeah. No, it was all aqua blue. So I poured it all in and it should be fine. But if I did my math wrong or chemistry or whatever, that's going to be a waste of a bunch of epoxy, which is not cheap.
Yeah, epoxy is, I think, generally speaking, about 10 times more expensive per unit volume than like what you would pay for walnut.
Yeah, which is why I'm glad I have an epoxy sponsor. It's still expensive, but
what did you use to add pigment to it? Was it like a little like mica powder or just like one of the trans tint dyes?
Mica powder, because these are the river table cribbage boards. I don't want them to be transparent, otherwise it'll be hard to tell when you're reading or trying to read the board. So I keep these pretty opaque. But yeah, so that was really it for me this week as far as what I've been messing up. Luckily, everything else has been going fairly well, other than my stomach broke, which sucked for a couple of days. I think I just ended up with some bad food poisoning from we had eaten out, and I think somebody just didn't handle the chicken properly or something. So, yep. How about you? What have you been breaking?
So the first one was we haven't been doing very much 3D printing recently, and then my son went to print a couple of things, and he was like, he went to print it, and then he came to me, Dad, you're gonna have to fix the nozzle, and I was like, what? So this is not what you want to hear. This is like when your kid's sick and it's like 2 a.m. and they're like, I threw up in my bed. It was like one of those like moments where you're like, you did what? Or like, Dad, my fart's on the ground. So I have yet to deal with that, because basically what happened is I think he said that there wasn't a plate on it when it started. So I don't know why he would be swapping plates, because it should have been the same one as always. But anyway, I just told him to print on one of the other printers, and I would eventually get to it. So I have yet to. It's like, oh, was it? Is it Pandora's box or something? Where it's like
Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah, Schrodinger's cat. It's both broken and fixed until you open it. So I'm just like, I'm delaying the inevitable.
Yep.
And yeah, so it's like,
it's Schrodinger's 3D printer.
I don't have the mental capacity for this. Like, we have state cross country in 2 days. Once I finish that up, I'll have a little bit more mental capacity to handle some stuff like this, and then I'll just get around to it then. So,
aren't you excited it's almost over and you don't have to stare at children running all the time?
No, I'm more excited for the fact that I don't have to keep on yelling at them all the time, because it's hard to keep kids focused on something, especially something as mundane as running.
Just have them play Pokemon Go as they run or something.
I wish it was something that simple.
Yeah.
Or I could just tell them that I randomly put money on the ground someplace and they have to go run and find it, and then don't put money down.
I was literally just thinking that there are those TikTok accounts that do like, here's $20 and they put it on some duct tape, and then they put like the piece of duct tape on a wall somewhere, and it's like, come find it, and you're supposed to find it from the clues that they show you on the camera. You could totally do that, where you like, somewhere on your route, I hid $20 on a piece of duct tape.
They would find some way to be too distracted by that, because they would like stop at one spot and not run. Well, now how would that be different than a normal practice? It probably wouldn't be for the ones that stay distracted. Because you've got some that like know what they're doing, and then others that, you know, there's let's just say there's a very high ADHD amount ratio in the group that runs.
Haven't you heard? It's because of, you know, that the mix of Tylenol and vaccines that have caused that.
Well, you know, that must be the case. We must have had a lot of Tylenol for the running.
Mm-hmm. Anywho.
So yeah, I'll deal with the 3D printing stuff later. I went to go grab some more lumber out of the basement space at the furniture store, and I noticed my 2 commercial dehumidifiers weren't running. And I was like,
oh no,
that's not supposed to be doing that. So I checked, and the funny thing was, both of them were shut off, and both of them had the same error code. It was an error code for like the pump that pumps the extra water that the
both at the same time.
I don't know if they were at the exact same time, but it was weird that they both had the same error code and they're still off. Because I was there a week prior and they were still running just fine.
Yeah.
So anyway, it was the code. What is on my wall? Oh, there's a spider crawling up the side of my wall. Dang it, it's not the snake. Anyway, so yeah, ADHD and running. Am I right? Okay, so the error code was E4, and that error code apparently was for the pump, like I had mentioned. And so what it said in the booklet was to turn off the machine for like 2 minutes, and then afterwards it will reset, hopefully. So the weird thing was, the first one seemed to do just fine. The weird thing with the second one was that like it turned on and was running, but like the display was acting weird, like it wasn't fully lighting up or something. So I tried resetting it again, and it like the backlight on it still went on. So I don't know exactly what the issue was there. So I'll go back later sometime and check and see if it's still running and if I need to troubleshoot that one a little bit more. But I'm not quite as concerned about it since we're getting into the winter months, since the humidity in that space is not quite as big of a deal during that time of year. So I've got a little bit of buffer room to figure out what's going on with that. So I've got I've got some time to fix the stuff that has been breaking, but hopefully I don't delay it too long that it becomes a tsunami of things that I have to deal with. So that's what's been breaking in my life.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
So selling, not a ton going on right now. Digital files, funny enough, has shifted this week. I've noticed I didn't sell a single one of my Halloween trays that have been blowing up the last couple months, or a couple weeks, and have all of a sudden it's all shift to my Christmas trays and Christmas tree cutouts. So I think all the people prepping for Halloween have stopped, even though we're still a week and a half away. But
Yes,
now
they've either
Christmas,
given up or they're done.
right? Yeah, exactly. And now the Christmas has moved in, so it's. I always chuckle to myself when I start see those trends happen.
But has Mariah Carey been thawed yet from the ice?
Oh, it's coming. It's coming soon. November 1st, it'll be blasting in our ears.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had a custom order for a UFO that I got finished up, and a UFO lamp. Got that shipped out yesterday. And then I have a custom order for a kid's pull toy, some ducky pull toy that I need to get finished up. Yeah.
So is it like the ones where it has like a mama duck that has rollers, and then like the little smaller ones that just kind of drag behind? Or they all have rollers?
This one's just simple. It's just the 3 smaller ducks. It's not a mama duck and 3 babies. Though I probably should make that version. I haven't yet, but I probably will now. But this is just 3 little ducks with wheels, and they, toggle along on a rope. So I have an order for that. I need to get that finished up and sent out. But speaking of the digital files, interestingly enough, I had my first IP content strike on Etsy. Somebody claimed an IP infringement against me for a tic-tac-toe board design, which is in the public domain. Tic-tac-toe is an ancient game. It's in the public domain. And the person who did the strike against me was the Alberta and Ontario Gaming Lottery Company. I forget the name. I'm not going to name the company. It was in French. Or Quebec, sorry, not Alberta, Quebec in Ontario. And yeah, so for some reason, this company striked my thing. So I responded to Etsy Legal. I tagged it, and then because in the thing it says you should reach out to the person who striked and see why they striked you. And so I copied that person to my email to Etsy Legal, going, here's the information about tic-tac-toe being in the public domain. It's like, this is a free thing. Plus, it's my image. My thing isn't tic-tac-toe game. I'm claiming I'm selling the digital file to make tic-tac-toe on it. So I'm not claiming that as my own thing. And so the person didn't respond to me, but the next day the infringement was rolled back and said that they had withdrawn it. So I was like, okay. So
put up or shut up.
Like, maybe just because I tagged Etsy Legal, they're like, oh, this guy's actually going to complain. But I'm also like, why are you trying to strike a digital CNC file when your company is the lottery in Quebec? Like, that didn't make sense at all to me.
You'll never know.
Never know. But yeah, so that's what I've been selling. Have you anything going on sell-wise?
I've just done a little bit of back and forth conversation on a custom commission for a plant stand. I think I might have mentioned it a couple weeks ago. I just hadn't had time to get around to designing it and doing like a 3D model of it. So I'm probably gonna do just a quick rendering of it just to see size and scope of it is in line with what this person wants. So still kind of in the exploratory phase for that larger piece. So that's the only thing that I really have, other than, I mean, I've got the couple of shows that I need to make some stuff for, but that's, I mean, I still have to figure out what I need to make. I'm probably going to do a bunch of like kitchen utensils and kitchen gadgets and things.
Herb strippers.
You caught on to why I asked some questions.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, and-
you don't have to have a CNC. They're super simple to make.
Yeah, because I'm probably just gonna make maybe like a couple of each item and make a couple of just a variety of things just to see, and generally speaking, for that kind of stuff, I mean I keep most of the stuff local, so I don't worry too much about copyright strike stuff just because I've chosen not to deal with online stuff just because that's one less thing for me to worry about. So anyway, that's just working with quotes and stuff for stuff to sell.
I always feel like somebody's watching me.
All right, so my first one this week is I'm going to shout out Chelsea because she's been killing it.
Do that.
I can. She was here last week, but I'm going to shout her out. Chelsea has been killing it this week with her content creation. Like all week long, she's had new posts. They've been funny. Like today, she posted one, but then in her story, she did the alt version of it, which was
I love that.
It was so funny. It was hysterical. Go check it out. I mean, well, now it's going to be gone by the time you go and listen to it. But
we can bully her into making it a reel. We can do that.
We should.
We can influence her to influence.
Exactly. But yeah, today's post, she did these really beautiful birds, in framed birds in the intarsia style that she does, and they were just really gorgeous. So yeah, great job, Chelsea.
The first one that I have is Lady Wood Goods is their tag on their Instagram account, and what caught my attention was they did a frame with it's similar style where it is a rainbow trout, and then the background behind it is just kind of like a mosaic, and then it's all framed. And so what they do in theirs, they do a lot of paint for those. They do a variety of things when it comes to like different animals and stuff that they paint, and the paint work is wonderful. Like looking at that rainbow trout, like, because I like to go fly fishing, and rainbow trout is the primary fish that you come across when you're fly fishing a lot, and so it was just like instantly recognizable. So the realism on it was pretty cool.
Nice. My next one is Steve Ramsey, or Woodworking for Mere Mortals, the OG YouTube creator of woodworking. One of the reasons why I'm a woodworker, because I've learned from him. I mean, that man seriously got me through the pandemic when he was doing his project a day vlog on during lockdown. Yeah, and I've got to meet him a couple times. Amazing guy. But one of my favorite things he does is every single year he does this Halloween themed project, but it's this really funny, like Halloween horror video is what he does on YouTube, and it's always that. And so today it released the 17th annual Halloween video project. I haven't watched it yet, so I'm excited to go watch it actually after this. But
I'm just going to pull it up and spoil it for you right now.
Please don't. I literally look forward to this all year long because I like Halloween, and they're always so funny or so clever on how he does it, and so I'm really excited for this one. So yeah.
Cool. Next one that I have is Jess at Script and Grain, and she had a couple of CNC carved like welcome sign and like paw print things that she did, and I don't know what kind of CNC she uses. I mean, it should all be the same, but like CNC work into concrete is, I'm sure there are its own challenges with doing that, but like CNCing into concrete pads, you have a lot of cool options. And the nice thing about those is that they're just ready as soon as you're done with it. Like you don't have to apply finish or anything like that. It's like ready to go outside immediately. So that's pretty cool. So that was the one that I had.
The CNC, I think, was her standard CNC. The only thing that was different was the bit she was using was specifically a diamond bit for
for ceramics.
A diamond drill bit. Yeah.
Well, I'm not
and-
sure. I think she had it into open air, if I remember
Yeah,
right. I don't know if she had a dust boot on it.
No, she did not. She rolled it outside and did it outside because I can't imagine how dusty that would be. And it actually, that gives me an idea of I really want to try that. And like, I wonder if I can do like a garden sized cribbage board, like out of a big block and do it on the CNC.
Ooh, what you could do is you could have your blocks, and then you can basically just do like repeating pattern, and then you just keep on, you just like make it as long of a cribbage board as you want and just like piece it together.
Yep. And my other thought I just thought of too was like you could make like dominoes. You could actually make a full set of like, I don't know, like 5x7 sized concrete domino blocks and have a domino set to play outside. So I don't know.
Or you could make it Jenga blocks, because that wouldn't end poorly.
No, that would be so bad. I think we'll stay with the wooden giant Jenga tower.
Yes.
Anyways, next one I have is McCook Woodworking. They posted a custom commission hatchet that what my friend Brian Bricker had ordered from him. And man, it is an amazing metal piece, metal hatchet. And then the handle is some myrtle wood with a black walnut pommel and a black walnut wedge. It just looked gorgeous. I didn't know Brian was ordering this, and so they had posted in that it was being shipped out to him. And man, it is. I might have to order a hatchet now because it looks so pretty.
Remind me, what color is myrtle again? Is it a lighter wood?
Myrtle is a type of maple. Sorry, it's an offshoot of maple. It's a little bit. I want to say richer, but I would say more golden than maple is. So a little bit more orange hue, that golden orange hue into it. Very vibrant. There's a lot of chatoyance.
So maybe more of like a red oak kind of color?
No.
Not quite that intense.
No, not the reddish way, but go to like it. It's like maple when you turn up the saturation on the photo. It's kind of how it. It's how I picture it, but with a lot of chatoyance in it.
Nice. Okay, next one that I have is from silverhair_and_sawdust. So they've been doing some marquetry leaves, just little marquetry leaves, and they are so fun. Just because it's kind of got their own. It's almost like a. It's not like a hyper realism. It's more of a. They're almost like snowflake like in shape. So they've each kind of got their own geometric pattern aspect to them. Either that or I just haven't seen the original leaf that it was based on, and maybe there's something there. But anyway, I just thought they're really cool because I love seeing marquetry projects with that stuff, because there's so much creativity that goes into figuring out what you want something to make and the grain selection that goes into it to accomplish that. So yeah, hats off on those marquetry leaves, because those are pretty cool.
Yeah. My next one is Jeremy Claybaugh. I wanted to shout him out. He's getting ready for a craft market himself, and so he was making a bunch of coasters and cheese boards and some bow knives. And I just wanted to say great job. And for somebody who doesn't have a CNC, of still making those projects, and he had made a post like, is it worth it to do small things without a CNC these days? And but there definitely is a market for that. And he did a bunch of glue ups for the coasters and everything. They look gorgeous. And so I just wanted to shout out that he's doing some great work.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to be doing for some of my stuff, is just a couple of one-off things, not on the CNC, because you can still do it. It's just not going to be made quite as quickly and at a scale volume, which is not a bad thing if you're experimenting with what it is you're trying to figure out, because you don't necessarily need to have like 10 or 20 of them, because you don't know if you need 10 or 20 of those. So if you have just a couple of each, and a couple things sell and a couple things don't, when you do get a CNC, you know what to put on it and to run.
Right, and a CNC is not, and I want to preface, because we've mentioned this a couple of times, it's not a end all be all thing. Like there is still a huge market for complete handmade specialized things. Like even like Jeremy's coasters, like those are gorgeous glue ups that you only do by hand. His bow knife, like, yeah, you can cut that on a CNC, but you can definitely tell that his is handmade versus something that's perfectly cut on a CNC. And that there is something so much better, and not better, but different. And there is a perceived quality difference too. So, yeah.
All right. Next one that I have, this was a YouTube video that came out a few weeks ago, but I had not seen it until recently. So it's from Matt Cremona, who obviously is a very big name in the space. And for those who are not aware, their dog Pancake, who was a French bulldog, had passed away. And it is a like tear-jerking hard video to watch. Like the first time that I saw it come across, it was on Facebook, and I was like, I cannot handle this right now. Like I need to come back to this in a little bit to actually like watch this. So he has a couple different versions. There's the Facebook version that's like maybe a 5-minute video, and then he's got the longer version on YouTube, which is like a 15-minute version of it. So for those who are not aware, him and his wife had gotten this dog early on in their marriage before they had had kids, and they had gotten this dog when they were a puppy. And then shortly after that, they had their first kid, and then they had subsequently had their other 2 kids. And so those of you who have had a family pet that you have known basically your entire life, you will understand the connection that these kids, as well as the parents, had to this member of the family. And I think what was especially challenging about the video, just for like emotional, is that Matt was filming the video of just him in the shop making it, and he would inset family footage of their dog along the way, of all these different memories from when she was just a puppy to the first time that they met their first child and doing stuff together. And that audio, that's just like home video audio mixed with just the sounds in the shop as he made the casket, coffin, whatever you want to call it, for Pancake, was just like, I can't handle this. So it's one of those very difficult, but I think very worthwhile videos to watch because of how special it was and how much you absolutely know that it meant for the family. So it was definitely I would say a healing process for him to going through that. Like I could imagine while he's making, you're seeing what's going on in his head while he's making that casket. Those videos are playing in his head, those memories, and so you're basically seeing what is going through his mind. So it was. I mean, hats off to Matt for like. It may not, because it didn't have a whole lot of like effects and stuff, doesn't mean that it was not a moving and well put together video. Like you don't need that stuff to make good content always. And so it was just a very like emotionally raw video that, like you said, really steps into the mind of, what is most likely going through his head as he is building this project.
I watched the video and then I immediately went, I need to watch Marley and Me now and cry some more. Like, if you haven't seen that movie, that is a movie that will make you cry because it's a same thing, family dog pass, blah, blah. But, it was a very emotional video. I also watched it a couple days ago. And, whew, yeah.
Yeah, sorry for bringing down the mood.
Well, bringing the mood back up, my next one and last one for the night is Wooden Wilder. So she is, first of all, so her latest post is her making her own logo, and she made it as a challenge because she bought a scroll saw and then hasn't used it and was, I don't know if she was afraid of it or just not afraid to start learning on it and so on. The post didn't really go into detail on that, but she said that she had challenged herself to get through and use it. And the logo, I thought, did a great job. It looks amazing. For a first time on a scroll saw, she did a great job. but her normal, and I don't know the style of what woodworking or of art this is called, but I always call it the chevron panels. They're like,
Mosaics.
think of like the mosaics. Thank you. And so, but hers they're one of the best ones I've seen. And I'm not just saying that. I know I say that a lot to some people, but hers are really good. And I like them because she does a lot of texture in them. So it's not just a flat panel with the design. She adds different depths on it, which it adds one level of texture. But then some of the panels that are used have engraved like mosaic patterns on the wood itself. So so it's a pattern in a pattern and adds some really cool depth and texture to the art pieces. So I really like those. And so that I had seen her from doing those, and then her logo with the scroll saw, I wanted to shout out that she did a great job with it for being the first project on it. So
Wonderful.
but that's all I've got there.
I'd like to buy some glue, please.
So
What's
this
that
week's
from?
main, that is from a video game. What is it from?
I'd like to buy some glue, please.
Hitman. It's from Hitman, the video game.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyways, so this week's main topic is all about adhesives in the workshop or in our shop. And when I think of adhesives, I think of the quote from the second episode of Star Wars where he's like, "Sand. I hate sand. It gets everywhere." And so I'm like, I
Rough
feel
and
the
it's
same
coarse
way.
and
It's
gets
like,
everywhere.
right. For me, it's I hate glue. It's sticky and it gets everywhere. Because no matter what I do, I get glue somewhere that it shouldn't be. But anyways, let's talk about glue.
All right.
I can just go off about pet peeves, but why don't you start?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a very wide variety of glues and adhesives that we can use for various projects, because obviously you've got PVA glue, which is kind of the standard that a lot of people have for their wood glues.
Is that wood glue?
Yeah. So if you see something that is advertised as like a wood glue, it's most likely a PVA is that
Okay.
style. So if you get like, your wood glue that's from Titebond, or you get your wood glue that is like, you've got the Elmer's wood glue, you have the Boss Dog wood glue, like that's all the PVA style wood glue, and that needs pressure in order for it to adhere and bond the wood. And everyone who has watched any videos about glue have understood that the glue is stronger than the wood in any scenario as long as you glue it properly. So obviously you've got to have clamping pressure on that. It's not an expanding glue like some of your others, like I believe, I can't remember, it's some form of epoxy. I think you can add like a component to it that makes it expand. But like if you think of like the original Gorilla Glue, that's a glue that will expand once it is in the joint. So you don't necessarily need clamping pressure per se, because it will expand to fill in order to actually adhere those two pieces together. Because like I use that for putting on like the little hardware ends of like spatulas on, or it just slips on, and I did clamp it just to make sure that it stays in place, because as that expands it can kind of push off the pieces a little bit and they can move. So you would need the clamping more so just to make sure that as it expands it doesn't like move, as opposed to like PVA glue actually needing compression in order for it to actually work, because that's allegedly, if you don't put compression on it, then like you would have glue on there but the bond wouldn't be as strong for it.
It does still somewhat bond, but yeah, because it does still bond with fibers, but it is not as strong of a bond, because it does, as soon as it moves, it breaks, because it's a brittle bond, where you've got some other
you want to have
glues
that, you want to have that thin layer in between
Right,
to
exactly.
be, like, you don't want it to be like an Oreo where you can see it because it'll just be able to like shift off. You want it to be minuscule, not only because it looks better, but also because your bond is good. But you don't. I know that I think I've seen in some videos where they're like, don't squeeze out all of your glue, but I don't think that's usually the case because you'd have to clamp your workpiece down super duper hard in order for that to happen.
And most likely at that point you're denting or cracking the wood and so on. So like, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I know, I mean, that's obviously we started with the wood glue. I know personally, I just use the, it's like is it the 16-ounce bottle, the like round one that has the normal like wide mouth tip on them from Tite Bond? Because honestly, that's what I use, and I use it just fine. And then I am a heathen, and I spread the glue onto a nice film layer just using my fingers.
I'm definitely a finger smearer too. I don't use a brush or anything like that. I will. I mentioned for this area, I put a note. I do have the glue bot, which is the bottle where like you load it in and it uses gravity to go down and then back up. So it's supposed to, you get, as you squeeze it, you get all of it out of the
because it comes from the bottom instead of trying to have to like rotate it and then let it go up.
It's a nice thought. It's a waste of $10 in my mind. Like really, it's not worth it. Like just use the regular bottle and that's what I've moved to. I just use the regular bottle from like the Boss Dog bottle or the Tite Bond bottle with the straight top. And
then I just fill it with like I use enough wood glue that I can buy the gallon ones of it and then just refill those 16-ounce ones that I already have.
Or when Home Depot makes a boo-boo mistake on their website and posts the price for 3 or 4 bottles for the price of 2 bottles. That happened earlier this year, and so I definitely have 4 gallons of wood glue in my garage at the moment that will set me up for at least the next 4 years.
Nice. Yeah.
I also have, I do say when you're using wood glue or PVA glue, I have silicone is really nice for that because it doesn't adhere to the silicone. One of my favorite accessories I have is this little silicone bowl. It's this red, it's basically a red silicone box, but it's like an octagon. But it has a bowl shape at the bottom so that it's not like stuck in the corners. But you fill it up with glue, and then you put the silicone cover on it so it doesn't, dry out. But it's a really nice little receptacle for the glue, and then you can use a brush or or like me, just dip your finger into it. But if I'm doing a lot of small parts, yes, just like that.
Yeah, I got this is one that's from Rockler, so it's just got a little like silicone top.
Yep.
Let's see if I pop it off.
Is that one rounded in the bottom too, or is it straight square?
Well, I'm not going to be able to tell you because this one actually dried out. I probably didn't get the lid on super tight. It was good for like.
Let's see the peel then.
It was like several. Yeah, let's do a live glue peel and see what happens. Let's see.
You got to bring it up to the camera. There you go. Yes, sexy. Oh, we need a disclaimer for that.
It's rounded.
Yeah, it's totally. Yeah, I think I have basically a red version of that, but the exact same thing. And
so
I
you're
love
Pokemon
that thing.
Red and I'm Pokemon Blue.
Apparently, though I would only play blue. But I love that one, and I think it's great.
This has probably been in this thing for like 8 or 9 months, I bet. So it's definitely overstayed its welcome because like it's not going to have as tight of a seal as like a glue bottle because you've got more failure points.
Yeah.
But like it was good like months after, so it's not that bad. Like if you need
for me when I
like to work
a big batch of toys, which always require like when I'm attaching the wheels, I put the smallest little dab of wood glue on the axle to the wood wheel, and so I just fill that up and I just use my pinky and I will dab it in there and dab it on the axle and call it good. So I that is a really great accessory. That is worth the money, not the other bottle, but that is.
Yeah, and sometimes I use the Festool Domino a decent amount, and sometimes you can dip the Domino into that before you put it in.
Yep.
but a lot of times what I will do, especially on like panel glue ups, is I use the domino for alignment on those panel glue ups, and I will get everything like glue on top, spread it, make sure that I have some in the actual mortise that the domino actually goes in, and then I will push that domino in. You need to be careful about if you're hitting it with a mallet, because then the end of it can actually mushroom and be difficult for the other mortise on the other side of the board to actually go in before you do that. And what I do is I actually have that board flipped up, and then I put the glue in there, and then I flip it upside down, so then the glue is up in the, it's already all the way in the mortise, and then the rest of it just coming out, and then I align it, and then kind of get it pushed together, and then flop it down flat, and then I clamp up with the clamps that I use on that one. And I will say, I mean, we're talking about adhesives and glue, but I love using panel clamps for my panel glue ups. They are wonderful.
I do too.
There's a few different varieties of them that you can get. There's a Rockler version, a Speed Tool version. There's a
honestly, I use the Harbor Freight ones, and they're great.
Harbor Freight has some panel clamps.
Harbor Freight has some that came out earlier this year. They're just as good as the Rockler brand. As far as I think, they look identical. I think they were made in the same factory, probably.
Okay, so they have a very similar design where they've kind of got that like
hatch.
It's like a little like a little ratcheted design is
Yep.
what it does. Gotcha, a little sawtooth.
Yep.
Cool.
I will say one of my favorite tricks with wood glue, since before we move on away from wood glue, I love doing the fill with sawdust trick with wood glue.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorite things. It's very satisfying to me. Of if you get a crack, or like if I'm making some boxes and the corners don't perfectly line up for some reason as the wood is shifted or when the glue dried, and I've got the smallest of gaps in there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you get basically either some sandpaper or take your random orbital, and instead of sucking up the dust, you put a Ziploc bag on the end of your dust port and sand a piece of wood that matches that. So if you're using cherry, sand some cherry. And then what you would do is you take a glob of wood glue and you mix it up with the dust that you made from the sandpaper or from sanding, and you've basically made wood filler or wood putty. And you can smear that on and then sand it back once it dries. The only time that's not a good use case scenario is if you're going to be staining, because it won't take the stain because it's already sealed with the glue. So, but if you're using like a film finish, like lacquer or something, then it's fine. Because then you're just using the natural color of the wood, and it's not soaking in, so it's not going to cause a problem with the wood glue being already sealed. But it's one of my favorite tricks. I use it regularly all the time to make seamless joints, because I'm not great in a jointer, and I find that it helps.
Yeah, I honestly don't use the sawdust trick that often, just because I don't use film finishes very frequently. So
I use oil
that's
or
one
film
thing that
mostly.
I was gonna. That's what I was gonna bring up, is that depending on your type of glue that you have, it will determine what it's gonna look like. Because even if you have glue in that area and you sand it back, if you have a very porous wood like an oak, it'll actually fill in those pores, and it's going to look different around that area. Those pores are going to look like dark little dots, depending on the type of wood glue that you use, because obviously you can get something that is like your regular one that's kind of like a lighter color, and then of course you can go with like the darker colors that's going to match like your walnut and your other darker woods. You
could go with Boss Dog's clear, which dries clear as well. So I've started using that with the sawdust trick, so I don't have to worry about the color tainting of the wood glue.
Yeah, because I did use clear glue when I made that bar stool at Mark's course, and I was not able to find some of the wood glue when I had wiped it up, and it did look a little bit different when I put finish on it. We used an Osmo hard wax oil, so it might depend on the finish that you use, if it's a good use case or not. For me, it was not a good use case because of the type of finish that we ended up using. So just be
anything
aware
that is going to soak in, you won't use it. So like hard wax does actually go into the fibers, and that's why it looks different. Yeah, so it's got to be a film or an oil.
Yeah, so definitely pay attention to that, because I am, especially since I use oils a lot and hard wax oils, I am very meticulous when it comes to cleaning up glue squeeze out, because as anyone who has listened on here knew, I used too little of glue on the bar stool with Mark, and then it broke, so now I'm completely paranoid, and I make sure that I load up my projects with glue, and I get enough squeeze out, so I am on the side of, like, cleaning it out. And what I will do is I will take a, just like a wet, like, blue towel, and I will just kind of go, especially on, like, an inside joint. I don't do this nearly as much on, like, a piano glue up, because if you're more likely to spread it into nearby pores than you are to, like, actually get it completely clean. So I just leave it as is when I'm doing that type of a glue up, and then I just come through with some side cutters and cut them off, the little, like, globs of glue, and then I come through and sand off the extra. But if it's on an inside corner of something, I will take that wet blue towel and go through, and as I am going in on the corner, I'm rotating it so that not all of the glue accumulates in one corner spot. I'm rotating it away from that corner so that it's getting introduced to a fresh new part of the cloth. And then I'll actually take, like, a little, it's like a little pick tool. It's something from, like, Harbor Freight. So it's just like a metal tool. And I will use that to pull through on that inside corner because it has a much sharper point. But it's actually a curved tool, so I have it pointing backwards, so I'm pulling it along, so it's pointing away from the direction that I'm pulling it, and then it gets all the way in that inside corner. Now, there's a lot of other tricks that people use, like some people will do the straw trick, where they'll cut a straw at, like, a 45-degree angle and then slide it on the inside corner, and it's supposed to fill up in the straw. But I just personally like to use the method of, like, re-wetting, just because it gives me more working time. Because if you re-wet that glue, you can get it cleaned up, and you can extend the amount of time that it takes you to actually clean everything up, especially if your outside edges of your joint are a little bit messy. So that's why I prefer. But you do have to, if you have done that and you have not previously water popped, you'll have to make sure and go over that with a sander again, just to make sure that everything is consistent, so that it's absorbing the finish consistently, so that your cleanup does not affect what the overall look ends up being like. Because then if you don't do that, then it's going to look a little bit more blotchy than what you anticipated.
And then if we move on to the more different other glue options that we use in our shops, the next version would be epoxy. Technically not a glue, but it is a tool that you would use for gluing. It's an adhesive, yeah.
Yeah. Which,
and
as you had stated earlier, like, a lot of people use it as, for river table pours, and it's more of an adhesive than it is like an actual solid material. So just keep that in mind, that it's probably closer to like a plastic, that more than anything. So just being aware of that when you're, when people are doing, river epoxy pours, to make sure that you need to add a little bit of structure in there, because you can, depending on how your table legs are set up, if you have stress in the right points, you can make a river table fail over time.
Right. And it's interesting. Some people, they'll use it more for a lot of people use epoxy for accents versus as an adhesive. Though I would say the most common I'm seeing today outside of river tables is using it as a finish for. I mean, they literally have bar top finish, bar top epoxy. You know, your thin set epoxy that goes very just on top, and you're literally just using it as a top coat. For something that is going to get heavily used, like a bar top, for example. I know my first project I made was an end table for our house, and because we were going to do fostering, we used epoxy as the tabletop because I knew that it was going to be something that was going to get drawn on and cars driven all over it and everything. Like it needed to be bulletproof, and so that was why I did it that way.
Yeah, because it's like we said, it's essentially a plastic, which I mean that's going to be very similar to like your poly finishes in terms of protection. Albeit when you do a tabletop epoxy pour, you're going to get a thicker layer than you will with like poly because the layers are so much thinner. Like, I mean, you could obviously get up to the same thickness if you wanted to, but it's going to take you a lot of coats in order to reach that level.
A long time.
So yeah. So it's, I mean, because you can add so, relatively speaking, so thick of a layer, like you said, it can handle scratches and dents because it's got physically more space to handle that type of stuff before it like gets to your substrate, which is typically a wood, right? So then you're not seeing that type of damage. Like you might see like slight gouges on there, but only if you look at it in the light, a certain way.
And then CA glue is another one that we talk about.
Well, wait a second. Let's stop it at epoxy. So another thing for epoxy, I think I had mentioned there are some additives that can be added to epoxy because I know we did it when I was at Mark's class because we used it for when we were attaching this like brass kind of kick plate onto the bottom of the, not the bottom of the stool, but one of the spans where your foot would rest. And it was because he uses I think he was using West Systems epoxy at the time, I think is what we used for that one. And there was something that you could add into it to expand, and that's what we used on those, especially when you're doing like multi-material. It's good for that stuff. And I'm not sure, because your wood glue, I think, is just, I want to say it's just wood to wood, but I'm not 100% sure. I probably should have done more research. But I know that if you're doing multi-material, epoxy is a very good option, especially if you're like in that scenario where it's like we're going metal on wood, or if you're doing some other type of insert, or you're doing like threaded inserts for something that is getting mounted on your tabletop. Putting a dab of epoxy in there is a good option to screw in those threaded inserts so that they stay in there nice and tight for when you do actually thread something in there to attach, say, a table base to your tabletop. And then epoxy is also a very good option when it comes to filling voids and cracks, because you had just mentioned the trick with the wood glue as well as the sawdust mixing trick. But I know that personally, I mean, generally the crack or the void has to be more than about 1/8 of an inch wide for me to use epoxy. Just because, I mean, you can use it on some smaller stuff, but you need to, like, one thing that you can do is you can kind of preheat it in some warm water. Like, so if you get a bucket and then put your epoxy in there, it will thin out a little bit more. And so it's more likely to penetrate those voids and cracks. And you want to fill that on one side of the crack, because if you just go through and just dump it across the entirety of the crack, there's going to be an air bubble between that layer of epoxy and the bottom of the crack. So you want to fill from one side and then let it naturally push from one edge of that crack all the way to the other, just kind of like a river flowing through a valley. And then you just pour it from one side and then just let it ooze all the way down, and make sure that you get all of that air out so then you don't have air bubbles, because that's an issue that you run into a lot with epoxy is air bubbles, because the easiest way to deal with those is to apply just a little bit of heat, whether that's a torch or a heat gun, to help pop some of those bubbles that do come up, whether it's on an epoxy pour or a tabletop pour, to make sure that you get that nice glassy finish as the end result. Because especially when you're mixing, because most of your epoxies are two-part, where you've got the resin and then the hardener, you want to make sure that you're not mixing it too fast, because, and this is from one of the Total Boat booths at Maker Camp, not this year, but the previous year, they're like, yeah, if you mix too fast, you kind of get that void of air behind your mixing tool that can introduce more bubbles into the epoxy that you're actually mixing. So you actually want to not go too fast that you're introducing more bubbles in there. And if you're doing a deep pour, you can also get a vacuum chamber if you want to get really, really fancy, because that will vacuum out pressure, and so those bubbles rise to the top a lot quicker. And it's also something that people do a lot when it comes to like a penetrating epoxy that they use for like pen blanks, that they want to fully dip something and fill it with resin throughout the entirety of the wood. Because Cactus Juice, which is a brand, I thought it was actual, like, something related to Cactus Juice for like many months before I realized it was just the name for the resin. It didn't have anything to do with actual cactus. But those ones you actually want to put into a pressure pot to pull all of those bubbles out of the wood, and all of that air that's out of the wood as that epoxy is filling all those voids. And then if I remember right, I think you need to pop those turning blanks like into a conventional oven or something like that.
Yeah, it's the heat that cures it.
Yeah, that one is heat based. And we should also mention that you can also do UV cured resins as well if you want to go that route, which is a much better option for like smaller pinhole fills. Obviously you don't want to use that for like a really big fill, because that's a lot of UV light that you're going to need, and you have to have it clear because the light has to get all the way through. So if you're doing it with like, if you want to UV cure black epoxy, it's not going to cure everything. It's just going to cure what the light can get to. So if you're trying to do something opaque, it won't work.
Right, you can't use opaque with a UV. I learned that the hard way too. I was like, oh, I'm going to use all this mica powder with it. I'm like, nope, you can't do that.
Yeah, sometimes you can be, experience is a cruel mistress sometimes that can teach us the hard way. And then, let's see, I'm trying to think if I forgot anything else on epoxy. I mean, working time can vary widely, whether you're using like a quick set epoxy that takes 5 minutes, or you're doing a deep pour, which a deep pour is going to take days to cure depending on how large that piece actually is. And epoxy does cure by heat, but it kind of depends on the temperature range, because if you get it too hot, or you don't mix it right, you get what I have here, which is just like this weird glob.
Thermal runaway.
As opposed to this other one that I have that cured properly as like a hockey puck that's nice and flat, because that's what you actually want for your epoxy. And if you
want to learn more about epoxy, I would highly recommend on YouTube Evan and Caitlin's channels. They really, for one, they're funny makers, and they make a lot of real things, but they do a lot of epoxy projects. And I've learned a lot of tips and tricks over the years from watching their videos, because they go through and they test a whole bunch of different epoxy tools and stuff like that. So
they do a large range of projects, from like more structural furniture stuff to like more artistic things, or like what's their area that they play in?
No, they play in weird things. So like every Halloween, they're trying to encase a pumpkin inside of resin, and and how to save the pumpkin to make it survive. And so they do that. They do keycaps for your keyboards that they'll make out of resin. They've done painting with resin. So like a Bob No, I'm not Bob Lazar. Bob, Happy Little Tree Bob.
Bob Ross.
Bob Ross, thank you. They've done Bob Ross with resin.
I was going to say
as
Bob
well.
Barker, but that wasn't
Yeah.
right.
And so it's really random stuff. But it's good. They're not woodworking. They're more of just creator maker stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah. The more art. Yeah. Epoxy is it's more than just an adhesive. It has a lot of artistic use cases that it can be used for, which sometimes is in more of the like longer cure time resins, and other times is the quicker set stuff.
So next we've got CA glue, which I don't know if we really need to talk about too much about, because everybody kind of knows what it's super glue. Like everyone knows what CA glue is.
I've got a lot of stuff to talk about CA glue.
Oh my God.
I love me some CA glue. ADHD, bro, you know it. You know I've gone down this rabbit hole.
Don't go down too far.
Bro, I've got a carrot. Come on.
I see that carrot.
So I use CA glue a lot, not only for some of your like normal tips and tricks where, like, for example, it can be used as a very quick bonding for like templates. If you put blue tape on one surface, blue tape on another surface, you put a little bit of your CA glue on one side, accelerator on the other, pop it on. It'll have a nice strong bond for you to use a router plate template on whatever it is that you are tracing with your flush trim router, and then you can just peel the tape off once you are done. So because it's got that large contact area with the tape doesn't completely, the blue tape doesn't peel off, but the CA glue keeps the tape together on that surface, since it's not a double-sided tape. So I personally use I use Starbond a lot, and so I use the thick version for that, just because it gives me a little bit more working time, and I don't need it to run onto either my workpiece or the template, because that's one problem with thin CA glue, is that it is so thin that it will run out of control very quickly, and especially if it runs to a spot that you don't want it, and if you need something to stay flat, that little bead of CA glue can make something out of flat very quickly, especially if you're, you don't want it to be dripping on tools and stuff. But I also use CA glue a lot for filling smaller cracks. So I use the black CA glue from Starbond all the time, and usually they don't have a thin version of it, but they have a medium and a medium thick version that you can use. But something that you need to be very aware of is that as you fill in those voids, you can use an accelerator spray in order to make the cure time faster, but don't go overboard on that, because it can create it can cure unevenly, and it can, I don't know if it's technically thermal runaway like the epoxy is, but it's something similar to that, where you get this
it's the chemical reaction between the acetone and the CA.
Yeah, so you can get discoloration, and it will not cure evenly, so you're more likely to get little bubbles in there. So once you fill it up, fill up the void or the crack, if you do way too much accelerator on there and then you finally sand back, you're going to have a lot of small holes that are in there that you're going to want to try and fill. And once you fill all of those and then you sand it back, you sand down just enough to expose more holes that you already had, because you had not let it cure evenly enough by using way too much accelerator. So yes, you can use accelerator to make your CA glue dry faster, but if it's for more of an aesthetic purpose, be very careful with how much you apply, because it can ruin the aesthetic, and it can be almost impossible to fix unless you go back through and essentially carve out that void again and essentially start over with that particular void. And as I had mentioned earlier, generally an 1/8 inch and wider type size crack is what I'll use for epoxy, and anything smaller I generally use CA glue in order to fill like cracks and voids, just because I like the contrast of black against walnut, black against maple, and just about any color, just because you're leaning into the fact that there were cracks there, and instead of like trying to hide them, you're just acknowledging it and saying, hey, it's there, but it's kind of cool looking now because we get a different color that kind of makes it pop a little bit. So that's one of the reasons I like doing that.
Using too much, a lot of people will go, oh, I didn't use too much. I used, just a squirt of it. But I found when I was first getting started, I would get a lot of those bubbles. And if you're seeing yourself getting a lot of those bubbles, you are using too much accelerant. What you need to do is take your bottle and take your workpiece and move them away from each other when you spray. Because a lot of people have a tendency of go right up to where you've glued and went and spray right up to it. That bottle says 8 to 10 inches away. So move your bottle back and spray it. It just needs a fine mist of that acetone. It does not need a soaking.
Yeah, because if you're right up against it, and my son does this all the time when he's gluing stuff together, like 3D prints with CA glue, he will do that. And when you saturate it like that, it cures very quickly, and you can get those bubbles. And it can actually, even in scenarios where you're just binding something together, it can bind together in a funky way that can cause issues for you. So like you said, backing up so that it gets that finer mist that is more evenly distributed will work a lot better. And I have found, so Starbond has these they're like little pump bottles that can be refilled, and that versus the aerosol can, I'm finding that it's nice that you can refill the pump bottles, but the aerosol can gets you a finer mist.
It does.
As opposed to the pump bottles, they get you, it's more like a smaller droplets that are a little bit more uneven, which is fine if you're doing stuff for just structurally attaching something from, one item to another. But if you're doing something more aesthetic, like what I'm doing with cracks and voids, it's probably going to introduce more issues because it's not as evenly distributed of an accelerator.
I will say, for a lot of people, if you're using it, looking for accelerator, I know some people like Starbond. I personally think a little overrated and definitely overpriced. On Amazon, I know I'm not sponsored. On Amazon, there is a company called Adhesive Guru. Literally Adhesive Guru. They sell CA and activator packs, but you can get 4 3.5 ounces and 4 activators for $34, all in one box. So it's a really good price, and I've been using it now for almost a year. Of the different, I've reordered multiple times, but I've been using this brand now for almost a year, and for the price, it's phenomenal. And it's CA glue and activator. Activator is just acetone, with some extra little additives for the aerosol spray. But it doesn't need to be a fancy brand that you and your buddy like. It can just be something cheap.
Yeah, which for stuff that's just, like when we're gluing together 3D prints, like that's what we use a lot of time is, I have a bunch of the Starbond just because I've got it in the different thicknesses, but we'll probably get some more generic stuff since my son uses it very generously. One of the reasons I like the Starbond for the aesthetic portion is for the black one. At least at this point, I'm not aware of very many brands that have CA glue that comes as it's already pigmented black, and I like the black color that I get from it. I can't remember. I know that Total Boat has CA glue. I can't remember if they have a black pigmented one or not. But that's, I think you can add pigment. after the fact if you want. I just like the fact that it comes pre-pigmented, and I like the deep black color that I get from that Star Bond adhesive. So for me, it's more of a aesthetic choice for the black Star Bond glue that I do get. But I would say, like, for that stuff, that's why I'm going with the Star Bond. But for any other application, any CA glue is going to perform pretty darn similar in those scenarios. But I would say definitely to choose the thickness based on your use case. If you need a little bit more working time and you don't want to risk your glue basically running down the sides of your workpiece, probably get something that's in that like medium to thick, or even, I think they even have like a gel version that's like super duper tacky that won't run if you want to get that extreme. The trade-off that you get there is it will take a little bit longer for that to actually set, even with accelerator. And it just it depends on several different factors, but just know that you're making that trade-off between speed and control of where that CA glue ends up in your workpiece. Because I have had some instances where I have had CA glue run away from me and become an issue when it was thin glue.
On Amazon, and I'm just going because most people have Prime, Type Bond does sell a black medium adhesive. That's CA. And there's also another brand called Alpaca super glue, and it's also CA glue, and it comes in medium thick. So there are other options. Now I don't. By the way, it does look like Boss Dog has started selling a black super glue as well.
They have?
Medium viscosity. Okay. Yep, it's listed here on Amazon because they just recently got it.
Yes,
and there's another one called Springfield Adhesives. They call it a black rubber toughened CA glue.
Fancy.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I had gotten these like big containers of CA glue. Gosh, are they like, I think it was maybe like 16 or 20 ounces. So I got these like 2 years ago, and I'm still going through them. So like 2 years ago, I know for a fact, well, maybe not for a fact, I'm probably about 90% sure that Total Boat did not have black as an option then. So I don't think there were quite as many options for black when I had purchased the Star Bond black a couple of years ago. So I think it's becoming, people have been expanding their product lines so that they're including that as an option. So someday I'll have to test different ones.
Yeah. I will say, so all of the ones we've talked so far are what would be considered brittle glue, meaning that they are a brittle bond. So once that bond breaks, it can break under pressure and it snaps. There is a whole nother line of glues that are flexible glues. So think of hot glue as the prime example, is a flexible glue. But my favorite glue, and the glue that I use almost exclusively now on all of my game boards, my magnets, everything that magnets touch, I use E6000 glue, which is it's E6000. My friend Kara calls it shoe goo, because I guess it's a goo that you would use when you adhere the soles of glues together. It's what they use because it's flexible. It moves with the piece. And so it doesn't snap or brittle break. The reason why I use this is, like, all of my game boxes are held together with magnets. Well, those, as somebody claps it together shut over and over with wear and tear, I was finding that when using CA glue, the bond would snap and the magnet would come out. Even if it's friction fit in there, it would still eventually come out as the wood expands and contracts. And so I started using this shoe goo, and I've never had a problem with a magnet falling out again. So E6000 Gorilla Glue also makes a E6000 compatible or comparable bond glue, or flexible glue as well. So I do recommend that is my basically outside of woodworking where I would use wood glue. It's pretty much the only time I use adhesives is with E6000 now. I very rarely use CA glue.
What's the dry time on that stuff?
It is a little longer. It takes, I think it's dry movable in 30 minutes and it cures in 12 hours.
Oh my God, that's forever. No, I'm just
I
messing with
know
you.
it's not the instant glue, but
You do it before you go to bed and it's ready the next morning.
Yeah, and for me, like when I do a batch of magnets or game boxes, like I just spread them out on the table. I glue all the things in right before bed, and then in the morning I clean it up. So.
You'd probably also be rating all of these glues based on the odors that you get from them.
Probably. But that can be for Glue 2.0 episode.
Well, honestly, I will actually wear my full face shield when I'm using CA glue, because if I'm filling a lot of cracks, that'll make your eyes water. And you probably want to have a mask of some kind to kind of filter that out. If you're doing it at if you're just doing like one small crack that's maybe like a couple inches long and maybe like 1/8 of an inch wide, or maybe like a 1/16 wide, like one is gonna be just fine. But if you're doing like, because like I'll have like 8-foot slabs where I'm doing like 30 or 40 of these and they're all spread out, like that over time is gonna start filling the space with those fumes, and so you want to have something to deal with those fumes. But yeah, excuse me. And then I think our last glue to touch on is hide glue, which is kind of like the OG type of glue that is the one that you would literally make from the hide or other parts of animals. Maybe even
bones,
horse hooves,
fish guts, horse hooves, the bird poop.
Yeah, all of those things. So there are a couple different versions of hide glue that you can utilize. The one that you'll probably have the most access to is the liquid hide glue that is from Titebond, and it comes in like a dark brown container, and I've used it several times on projects, and I haven't really been super decisive about whether I like it or not. It's kind of like a gooey molasses type of glue, and it's supposed to be able to like take on finish better, but I really haven't. I mean, that's what everyone says, but I have not verified it for myself in any projects of like how well does that actually work in practice.
So
one of the
I will say it is a mix between a brittle and a movable glue, a bendable glue, because it is more on the side. So most people use hide glue today for musical instruments, and because it holds up under the vibrations, like for violins, for example, or cellos, it holds up to the vibrations a lot better. So yeah, so most people, that's what in today's world we mainly use hide glue for.
Gotcha. So mainly for our luthier friends.
Yes.
So you can also get, so that's, I want to say it's like a urea based hide glue is what the Titebond one is, because of like, just to make the shelf life good, because I believe what the preferred version of hide glue in its like purest form is, it's kind of like, for those who have ever dealt with like making their own shellac where it comes in like flakes, you can get it in that kind of like flake powder form, and then you can like heat it up and essentially mix it yourself. I think there's also there's a brand, I think it's called Old Brown hide glue, I believe, that I think is a little bit different in formulation. And the claim to fame that hide glue has been getting in more recent years is the ability to reverse it by applying heat, so that you can take something apart to be able to essentially either make it easier to fix or reglue it later on. So like excuse me, getting the hiccups. People have been recommending it for like chairs, for example, because over time chairs get a lot of motion in different directions because they're they're being sat on, they're getting moved, and they just loosen up over time, especially if you've got them in restaurants. And so what people are alleging is that you can heat up with a heat gun those joints in order to loosen it up and then be able to re-glue everything back down. Now, the trouble with this is that you need to get heat to the actual joint, and if it's like a mortise and tenon joint where it's much more hidden, your probability of getting the heat all the way in there, like you have to heat the wood up itself as well. So you have to have a lot of heat for that to happen. But it's probably better for like a butt joint of like two surfaces that have a little bit more, they're closer in proximity to that, the outside glue line that you can apply heat to it better. And I believe that the old Brown's glue and your like more traditional hide glue is supposed to be better at reversibility, but again, I haven't tested it myself to understand how well this actually works. So it's not something I have really gone into and had time to experiment. Someday I might do that. But
one other reason you would use hide glue, and this is coming from the englishwoodworker.com, and why use hide glue. They have an article on it. But one of the things that they say is, as an example, think about when you make that perfect fitting dovetail for a joint, right? Okay, so you have that dovetail. When you fit regular PV glue or wood glue into it, you know how you have to use basically a mallet to push it down because it's started to swell and it kind of locks it in place as it's going down. Hide glue is the opposite. It acts more as a lubricant as it goes down. So it's very easy to slide it in place, and then when it cures, it hardens.
And then I believe you also have a longer open time than your traditional
Correct.
PVA glues. I think it's like,
It's almost
maybe
double
like
according
30.
to this page.
Yeah, what is it, like 30 minutes or something like that?
Yeah. This just says it's almost a double open time. It doesn't give numbers.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's relative to where you are regionally, because in your more arid climates, your glue is going to set a lot faster, and then your more humid climates, it's not going to set quite as quickly. So yeah, that's a lot of information you probably didn't ask for about adhesives and glue.
Well, and on that note,
Good news, everyone!
we don't really have much as far as news. Did just want to give you an update that there will be no show next week. So no show for November 5th. We're going to be off for the week. So enjoy the first week of Cutting Board Awareness Month.
Yes.
Yeah. And remember, if you are interested in being a Patreon, Alex, how would they do that?
They would go to patreon.com/whatchamakinshow.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. And just remember that we are always here to say thank you for watching. Good night.
Night night.